right.
Hey.
All right. A lot of good stuff in that
Yeah,
podcast.
no kidding. Hey, there's a lot of stuff I left out of that
Oh, me
podcast because
too.
we had such a great conversation.
Yeah.
I got a story here that really is an eye raiser to me, and it has to do with a shooting that happened last summer during all of those riots, and this happened in Austin, Texas, where a car was, got stuck in one of these protests where the people were blocking the street,
Mm.
and his car got surrounded, and people started to beat on the car, and then somebody came to his driver's side window, had a rifle
Oh my
pointed
God.
at him and tapped on the window for him to roll the window down. Well, at that point, he felt that his life was in jeopardy. He was armed. He's actually a soldier. Shot the person first before he was
Yeah.
shot, and now this soldier has actually been charged. He's been indicted for murder. Um, the
Man.
um, the whole thing is that's being said is that the grand jury here was selected by a district attorney that is in Austin, who is, they're saying, rabidly political. And they're saying that the grand jury reviewed over 100 exhibits and interviewed 22 witnesses. The problem is, of course, that all the witnesses are likely heavily biased by the fact that they were
Yeah.
attendees
Right.
at the protest. So the grand jury was made up of all the protest attendees. How are you going to get a fair
No, it's
trial
impossible.
that way?
I remember many, many years ago, I was in my 20s when I was working for that small agency, and I was driving
Yeah.
to work, and somebody pulled in front of me, and I hit them, did a little bit of damage to their car, and they were like, there's two people in the car, and said, I don't know, it was like, okay, I forget what they said, but I went to the cops to report it. And after that, and I said, hey, if they say that it's my fault and it wasn't, if they come in and file a report and say that it was my fault, there's two of them against me. How is that going to play out? And the cop's like, look, if it happened as you said it did, it's just your word against theirs. Just because they have another person, we just count that as one opinion.
Right, right.
I mean, that's the brethren. So in the case of this riot or protest, that's the brethren that are all speaking.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
you
I
can't,
see what you're saying.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can't take that as eyewitness testimony.
No, well, and that's a grand jury, so that means that he's indicted, and now
Mm,
he's got to face trial for murder.
mhm.
And I'm just looking at this article and seeing this one piece in here where it's actually describing what this guy was facing. He says Perry was clearly not seeking to shoot anyone. Of course, this article, that's what they're saying. He was trying to legally drive on a road that protesters were illegally blocking. They then illegally surrounded his car and began to beat on it. And at that point, he already had reason to fear his life. Add in someone pointing a gun in your face while demanding you roll down your window. Okay, can you imagine that? Like
If
you,
it happened like that,
well,
we
well,
can't
well,
know.
they have video of it too.
Mhm.
So
Well, if
that's
they
the
have
whole thing.
video, that's a slam dunk.
Yeah, well, you would think. I mean, but the grand jury looked at the same videos, and
Mm,
but they were all protesters there. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So
I do.
this is a crazy situation, but
Yeah.
but it boils down to, how do you protect yourself against the mob? I mean, they can even point a gun in your face and you can't protect yourself. I mean, okay, this is tragic what happened, but what, you don't go around pointing guns in people's faces. I mean, that's how violence, I mean, how do you expect violence not to happen when that happens?
Yeah, I hear you.
It's a
Um,
terrible story.
yeah, yeah. I was thinking about the violence and everything. I just remember reading yesterday that, and I sent the article to Lisa, that in University Heights, in the nice area of University Heights, just
Yeah.
the other day, Wednesday, somebody, a couple was taking their groceries in, just got back from grocery shopping, and someone came up with a gun and said, "Get out of here," and stole their car. They're robbed
Okay.
at gunpoint in a nice area of University Heights. The Heights is going to hell.
Wait. You're saying a nice area of University Heights? Isn't all of University Heights nice?
Oh, well, it's just like Cleveland Heights. You got a
It
nice
is.
street here, you got a not so nice street here,
I
and
always thought it was more upscale. Like a
yeah,
really,
a lot of it is,
yeah, yeah.
but
But
as
still, yeah.
things go, our society continues to degenerate, and
Yes.
boy, that's and I'm reading about these shootings all the time in whether it's Cleveland Heights or University Heights. It's gotten really bad, but it has all over the nation. It's
It
gotten
really
crazy
has.
bad.
Well, and then you take a look at what's happening at our border too, where we have like huge amounts of people coming
Yeah,
across that they don't. I mean, where it just seems like a recipe for crime to happen. What employment do they have? Where are they
yeah,
living? All this
sure.
kind of stuff. And if you're starving, you're going to have to do something about that. And it seems that a life of crime would be very tempting.
Especially
Um,
when shoplifting is legal.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was on a big walk yesterday and I walked over a bridge and I noticed down below the bridge, about 40 young men that were standing there, all of them in t-shirts and jeans. They all looked like those videos of people
Mhm,
coming across the border and everything. We're pretty close to the border here. We're about maybe about 80 miles from the border.
mhm.
But I mean, with the amounts of people that are coming in, I have to say that I felt very uncomfortable and thinking, it was about dusk, thinking what are they doing and what's going to happen when they were all moving around frantically and everything.
Yeah,
Like it was just that weird kind of thing. What's going to happen when the sun goes down?
yeah.
And and the fact is here in this county, they're very hard pressed to get the police to come because they've defunded so much.
Mhm.
This is wow. You're right. And so of course violence is going to go up. We all act like, oh well, it's a surprise and it's the guns that are causing it, but I have
Yeah,
never seen a gun just go off by itself. It
yeah.
takes people with intent to cause violence. You take the guns away. I mean, people have cars. We've seen people drive over multiple people with cars. People can get a bat and come up behind you. I mean, it's not guns that are causing violence. It's people that are causing the violence.
That's obvious, but especially as you see gun sales continue to increase. Every time that they double down on these things about guns, about defunding police, boy, gun sales go way up. We got to protect ourselves.
Well, that's
That's
the
all there
thing,
is to it.
and but the narrative seems to be that it's the gun sales that are causing the violence, but it's just the opposite. It's the violence that are causing the gun sales. People that want to get away with crimes using a gun don't go and register their gun and go through the legal process
Yeah,
because, duh, you could be tracked pretty easily
right.
doing that. They have to get a hold of a stolen weapon or something like that. So, um, I think there's two problems. There are two problems. One is that we're going after legal gun holders,
And
but what about how are these people getting all of these? Where are all these stolen guns coming from? Where's the investigation on that as well? Because
yeah,
as we mentioned on the show, guns have serial numbers, so we should be able to track all this down and
they
find out
just,
where the root of the problem
but
is.
they file off the serial numbers. I mean,
Right.
every time.
Well, yeah, 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 true.
Mhm.
I guess that's what I would do. I'm not good at this
I
criminal thing.
mean, think about it. If you can buy a mass quantity of guns, so you get a decent deal legally, and then sell them on the black market, a
Yeah, you would
lot of
definitely
people
want to
make
scratch
that's
off those serial numbers. Yeah, I get
yeah,
it.
yeah. So that's what's
Yeah.
happening. I mean, I assume.
I
Uh,
don't know. I mean, maybe it's just, theft as well. I mean, that could be
I bet
something.
the
And then
cartel is making
oh,
millions
sure
bringing
they
in
are.
illegal
Yeah.
weapons. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it would be nice if we did something about the cartels.
It
I mean,
well, it would, and I mean, I've always thought this my whole life, being pretty liberal, fairly liberal, that I always thought drugs should be legalized, all of them,
yeah.
and it takes the crime out of it,
Yeah.
and it also takes the fentanyl out of it,
I think
and
there's a lot to be said for what you're saying.
yeah, and then even with all of the tax money that would come in from that, rather than and the ridiculous war on drugs, which again is all of our tax money going out the window to fight the cartels, and and incarcerate people that don't need to be really incarcerated, shouldn't be. But with all that, the tax money from that, you can, hey, somebody wants to buy crack, fine. Here they go. They get a pamphlet with it that teaches them the dangers of it, and here's a helpline, and here's some rehab facilities, and all of that. But what does everybody think? Oh, please, you're going to legalize crack. Everybody's going to be on crack. Are you going to go out and get crack?
No.
Right. Everybody but you is going to go out
Right.
and get crack now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but it would take all of the power away from organized crime.
Well,
And
I think you're right. I mean, it just seems to me like we live in a society that says, hey, we don't like this. Let's make a law about it.
yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
if if you're a criminal, it doesn't matter if you made a law about it or
Right.
not. You know, the
Right.
the law-abiding people are always going to follow the law, but just making a law about it doesn't make criminals follow the law. I think
Right.
that's a big fallacy. And then we have laws that are on the books that we just don't enforce,
Mm.
and so it's an interesting dilemma that we have, but I think it all boils down to, I think I agree with you on this, is that we should have free will here. Like if we
Yeah.
want to ruin our lives,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want people to do that, but go ahead.
But we can more easily
Educate people, right? Like
educate them
people should be educated so that they can make the right choices.
and give them more opportunity to rehabilitate themselves.
Yeah, I think we tried throwing everybody in jail, and all we
Mhm.
did was pack out the jails, and it really create an oppressive society around that. We've got this. We still have the opioid problem that's happening out there. That
Sure.
hasn't gone away. I think it's probably throughout COVID gotten a lot worse.
Mhm.
We just aren't tracking that anymore because of COVID.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Hey, what do you think about the Delta variant? Don't you love they're saying, oh, the Delta variant? It's going to
yeah.
get you. It sounds like a horror movie, like one of those movies about a pandemic taking out the world.
It does. Delta, yeah, Delta Force. Like
Yeah.
Delta seems to be a pretty scary sounding thing. But here's the interesting thing about the Delta variant is that if you notice, throughout COVID, they changed their naming nomenclature. These viruses were always named after where they came from.
Mm. Ah,
They
the China
never.
virus.
Yeah. I mean, the Wuhan virus is really what that's how we've named all viruses up to that point.
Are you getting
So
at how infiltrated we are by China?
it might not just be a China thing. It just could be our politically woke thing. But of course, China, it is a China thing. Of course, they didn't want that to be called the Wuhan virus or the China virus. But at the
Everything's a
same
China
time, now everything's changed, and we can't call. Oh, the Delta. Where did that come from? I
Mhm.
mean, it came from. It wouldn't have been called that. But it's weird. Here's what's weird to me is, as soon as it came out, they said, well, if you've been vaccinated, it works against that. It's like, how do you know so quick that works? Everyone that comes out, well, this one works against that. Well, I'm wondering how they know so quickly.
Yeah.
And then here in California, a new one came out, and they're coming up with these crazy names. The Lambada
I've
variant or something like
not
that.
heard of those.
Two new ones came out
Oh,
this very week, and one of them, the virus, the vaccination, takes care of that one. Then a new one. Well, we're not sure if it takes care of this one. Put your masks back on. And you
yeah.
saw what happened in Tokyo, right?
I don't know what happened. What
So
happened?
the Olympics are coming, I think,
Mhm.
starting next month. And it's a big deal. They postponed it a whole year,
Mhm.
and now they're coming in. But a new variant came in, so they didn't cancel the Olympics, but now they've canceled any. Now you can't come.
Oh,
There's going to
right.
be no spectators there, and
Wow.
I just think about like the terrible. I mean, loss of revenue there to the
Oh, yeah.
to Japan,
Yeah.
and just you got just doing these performances without the fans there. There's an impact. I mean, I think
Yes.
there's an impact to the athletes, and of course, as a spectator, there's a tremendous impact there. It's just too bad. I
You
don't know what to
know,
say about that, but
it's it's like the entire year that got messed up and lost for. I always think like people that were juniors and seniors in high school, they're always going to be known in my opinion, like the COVID kids, the COVID
yeah,
class, they got
it's too
robbed
bad.
out of their
Big time.
homecomings and proms, just socialization in general, their education, their graduation, and I don't know. The world will go on, but
I
I
think you're
think
right.
remember how I've said all along, it'll take 2020 hindsight to really realize, figure out what we did right and what we did wrong with COVID. And I think we're already starting to see the smoke clear, even though they're keeping the waters muddy with these variants and stuff. But we're starting to see the smoke clear, and there's been a lot of stuff going wrong.
Boy, there sure
And it's like
has.
worldwide infiltration. You know, it started with China, but they own so much of us, our companies, and you know, politically they have such influence. Hollywood and entertainment and sports, you name it, they are infiltrated. And so,
Well, you know what's
uh,
weird about that is, like, for instance, I read an article on the NBA just doubling down on their
mm,
relationship with China. And you think about the NBA and how outspoken they've been over the last couple of years, especially about human rights and about equality. But yet they would never say anything about China and their human rights record
sure.
and the
Oh
equality
God.
that they have, or the million people that are of a Muslim faith that they have in concentration camps that are being raped and tortured and murdered, and used as slave labor, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, you think about Nike and how the CEO of Nike said that we're for China and that we're of China, but they're an American company and they're selling all those shoes. And you think about, like, people that are laboring to make these shoes. Some of them we don't know what's going on in China with the slave labor and everything. So, you know, this is how hypocritical to wag your finger at America and then kiss the ring of the Chinese emperor. You know, I mean, this is it's so hypocritical that it seems to jump off the page, and yet um people seem to be fooled, very fooled by what's really happening over there.
I know. Doesn't it give you such a helpless feeling that to be so aware of this? And it seems to me that there are millions of people in this country that are so aware of this, uh, of all the things that we talked about just here this morning. Uh, the corruption of our own government, the corruption of what is becoming uh, interdependent world. Uh, I want to say world government, but it
It's
may
seeming like that.
be.
Yeah, it's seeming
Yeah,
like a one world government is,
yeah,
again, a biblical prediction. A one world government ruled by the Antichrist.
mm,
That these things never seemed to be possible before, but now
right.
they're moving. It's like the chairs of an assembly are being set here
Mm,
for the master ceremony,
yeah,
and and maybe a master showdown here. So, but you're
maybe.
right, Barry. We see this this collaboration amongst governments. Anne Marie was showing me an article of these billionaires that get together in I think this really awesome place in Idaho or something, this resort, and it's nicknamed the summer camp for billionaires. So you got, like,
I saw an article on it.
Zuckerberg is there, and Gates and Bezos, and all these billionaires get together. It was a very impressive list of people, but it also seemed like a list of people that have collaborated to destroy the world. And I,
To own
as
it anyway. Yeah.
well, but then they collaborate together too.
Yeah. Yeah.
They seem like, when we saw the collaboration of big tech to muscle out Parlor, well, you had some of those very same players at the Billionaires Club, you know, and
Sure.
it makes me nervous that these guys get together and spend all that. What could they possibly be talking about? And I'm sure it's, you know, when you start looking at how many billions of dollars these guys have, because they have their net worth. I mean, here's Zuckerberg, 127 billion. Here's Gates, 128 billion. At the top of the list was Bezos at 201 billion dollars.
Mm.
Whoa.
Can't
I
fathom
mean,
that.
No, I mean, you can't even conceptualize what $1 billion is,
No.
really. I mean,
Mm-mm.
it's hard enough to try to conceptualize a million, but
Yeah.
1,000 million are
Yeah.
what we're talking about here. And he's got 127 of those, or 201 of those 1,000 millions.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. So
Our
that kind of
system's messed up.
power, yeah, that kind of power, that kind of money can buy you a lot of influence in Washington and around the world. And now if you combine that revenue all together into one centralized place, and they have one centralized idea that,
Hmm.
like, for instance, Bill Gates is talking about getting rid of my hamburgers forever.
Hmm.
uh and I'm telling you, you take away my hamburger, you're going to see a very mean person over here. I'm a nice guy, but if you take my burgers away, I'm coming for you, baby.
Yeah.
But like, I'm serious. Like, how easily can they just do whatever they want to do
For
if they
sure.
join forces?
Because I mean, obviously, most of us would like to change some laws a bit where they're not siphoning all the money out of the country, and we're just being suckered for more and more. I mean, we are like, in a figurative sense, it's already the matrix where we are just hooked up. We are the energy for the larger organism. We're just the life is being sucked out of us, and well, they're doing it monetarily right now. So we
Well,
would
they are.
change
Let me just
those
bring up a
laws.
concept that I've been studying here. There is a book called "Socialists Never Sleep." My sister-in-law Liz gave it to me, and it's by this author from the Washington Post. Her last name is Washington Times, Chumley. Anyhow, she's talking about how we've done these bailouts over the last couple of
Oh
or
yeah.
the last year of these corporations. And
Yep.
you start to think about, like, one of them that she was talking about was Boeing. And Boeing, it was like, Boeing is going to go out of business. This is during this whole crisis. And they infused billions of dollars into Boeing because they're too big to fail, right? That was the whole
Mhm.
thing. And they
Mhm.
service, but the point that this person made was, first of all, there's nothing constitutional about taking your tax dollars, taking our tax dollars, and propping up a corporation. That's not how tax dollars are supposed to be used in the Constitution. Secondly, is that if you take a look at Boeing in particular, these people have made a boatload of money over the last few years. If you start to think about the luggage that they just randomly started charging for, that
Mhm.
added literally billions of dollars to the bottom line of every airline, instead of taking that money and reinvesting it in the airline or putting the money away for a rainy day, what they did was they did stock buybacks with that extra money, which
Wow.
increased the value of their stocks, thus enriching the board members tremendously. And so, and not only that, what they did was they put more seats into the airplane so that they could get a higher profit. I'm a big guy, so suddenly I start noticing that the width between my seats, to sit down, I've got to have a much narrower
Mhm.
behind. And also, I'm 6'4", so my knees now are practically up to my ears because of the person sitting in front of me. So they used to serve meals on planes. They don't do that anymore. You're lucky if you get a peanut on the plane.
Mhm.
And so these people now have caused us to pay them literally billions of dollars
Yep.
because of their poor planning. And what did we get out of it? We didn't even get a free airline ticket. We bought the airline tickets, but now we don't get to fly. And when we do fly, we get treated like a prisoner. I
Yeah.
mean, they're not friendly on those airlines anymore, and it's gotten much worse. But look at the debt the country is in through this whole bailout thing, and now these corporations are, with their new money, are wielding their muscles to
Yeah.
steal our rights. We bail them out and they steal our rights. This is upside down,
It is.
and they're completely controlling everything here. We gotta take this back. We got to right size this. Um, this
Well,
isn't how capitalism is supposed to work.
no, not at all. But additionally, you make me think about a Crystal and Sagar episode that I was listening to, where Sagar did an excellent job of explaining how the our politicians are so embedded with the lobbyists and how it's legalized bribery. The system that
It
permeates
is.
to the
That's
bottom
exactly
of it
right.
is they have all these different ways of paying each other off, and but it's legal. Just they just jump through a couple hoops. That's all they.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Barry. And the more we can expose this kind of thing, the more
Mm,
people are empowered to make choices on where they're going to invest their dollars, because there's a lot of shady stuff that's going on out there. And really, as we've mentioned time and time again, is that the mainstream media is not covering this type of stuff.
complicit.
And we really, the cutting edge now is here on these
Hmm.
podcasts. This is
Hmm.
where you're going to get the information from regular citizens like
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
And I think it's very powerful.
I do too. It, like I said, it can make me feel hopeless a lot of times. But the
Same.
fact that we have the power to, well, you know what? This, that they YouTube transcribes these podcasts, and then certain things get flagged, like ivermectin. Well,
Right.
there's not going to be any organic credibility with this. If so, guys, if you're listening to this, please share with some people that you think would be interested. That's how we're going to get the word out. uh, and I really, right back to that whole big tech thing, you made an excellent point about the fact that now Trump's got his name on it, so that the entire third of this country is going to be, oh no, tech's great, let them censor
That's right.
whatever they want, you
That's
know
exactly right. We just emboldened those people to double down on the elimination of free speech
yeah,
because Trump is for it. And
yeah,
it's like, how is that? How is that actually happening? But we can
yeah.
see how it happened. It was a concerted effort for years.
Yeah, for sure. I just wish that we could get rid of Trump altogether somehow. I don't mean murder the guy or anything, but I wish that we could get enough of this kind of interest behind getting somebody credible in there to represent
well,
the rights, the
I think that the
conservatives.
more that, like, you still have the CNN and MSNBC, they're still talking, they're still trying to bash Trump. They're desperate to get their ratings and everything. And
They love him.
I think as long as they do that, that they're actually adding fuel to the Trump fire. Because the more they talk about that, the more people like me are going to mistrust them and be like, well, where's the alternative? And Trump's the only guy that I mean, he's the big alternative, right?
Hmm.
And the more they attack Trump, and really they're attacking anybody that supported him, the more you're going to embolden them. They're not going to be bullied away from that. Like, the more you try to bully like people of character, the more they become resilient, and that's
Hmm.
what it appears to be strengthening him. And like I said, if I had my choice, I would pick him any day over what's happening today.
Hmm.
That's as but gosh, it's this the country's being torn apart. I'm not
Hmm.
so sure it's him that's tearing the country apart, but it certainly, his name is used to tear the country apart, and
Yeah.
that's the scary part about this whole
Yeah.
thing. And so I agree. I hate to agree on this,
Mm.
but I just
I
think we
know
need somebody new
you.
to guide this movement, the
I really do
conservative
too.
movement, not the Trump movement, the
But
conservative.
I think mainstream media really realizes they need Trump more than anybody else needs Trump.
More than the Republicans do.
True. So I think that they're going to try to
Yeah,
keep stirring the pot. And the thing is
that's a
too,
very good take.
they
Yeah,
want to always be divisive. And you pointed out they're bullying everybody. Well, Trump's a bully. That's why
that's
Trump's
why I got voted in. Yeah,
Yes, that's correct. And that's
yeah,
why Trump supporters love him so vehemently, uh, is
you're
because,
right.
yeah,
Well,
he's the cannon versus their guns,
well, yeah, and from a conservative movement, conservatives have felt like, even under the Bush administration, because he was no conservative, by the way. I thought he was at first, but the
He used to
second
be a
term proved it
Democrat.
out.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about under the Bush administration,
Oh.
George W.
Oh.
The conservatives really felt left behind. Like, who's taking care of us? Nobody's even fighting for us. And then we had John McCain come out, and he wasn't fighting. He was doing nothing. In fact, he seemed more left than most leftists. And then you
Right.
had Mitt Romney. What a nice guy. We got this huge hurricane that came in, and I'm going to give away cans of soup on this little table here. Like, he ruined that whole thing.
Yeah.
Then you got Trump that's finally like, I'm not taking this anymore. And and the people are like, finally, somebody's going to fight for us. And that's how he got in.
Yeah.
Was he the best guy? I certainly didn't think he was.
Right.
But now that I look back on who he was running against, I actually thought Ted Cruz was the guy. Even
No
now,
one likes him though.
when I look at Ted Cruz now and what he hasn't done about the border crisis, I start thinking, I think Ted Cruz is part of the swamp.
Yeah.
Sometimes he says good stuff, from a conservative point of view, but it's all talk, no action to me.
Yeah. Politics is such a clown show and part of the swamp, as you say, for sure. And it's the whole system when you back it with mainstream media. Uh, it is a swamp. And what I
Yeah.
would like to see is a real education movement come about. And with these podcasts that are becoming more and more popular, and 2-3 hours worth of heavy education that people are thirsty for, boy, I would really like to see this whole educated movement overtake everything, overtake the Democratic Party, like really start infiltrating, overtake the Republican Party,
Amen.
overtake media, and
Yes.
we all start talking clearly. There's a movement where we're all like, hey, you and your racist stuff. All right, that's not cool at all. It's very divisive. We'll call
Yes.
it out for what it is. So you just take that and you can go form your own party or
I
something
love
like
it.
that. And
Yes.
there seems to be, I think maybe very quickly, maybe this is starting to happen.
I hope
Maybe.
you're right. I feel like the environment is ripe for it to happen.
When Joe
And ripe.
Rogan and Jordan Peterson get millions and millions of listeners every month, I mean every week even. Uh, that's a lot of people out there that,
It
I mean,
is.
those aren't dummies
No,
listening.
you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. That gives me a lot of hope, Barry. What
Yeah.
what you're saying, and but you speak about education, and you take a look at, in the news this past week, the National Education Association doubled down on teaching critical race theory, and when you start to really look at their agenda and what they're teaching children to embrace
Racism.
communism.
Mhm.
Well, racism is a tool that communists use.
Correct. We'll make it equal
And
for you.
but there, but these unions, these teacher unions, have been infiltrated by socialists, by the Communist Party of the United States, and they're indoctrinating these children so that when they come out to become members of society, they're this education that we're talking about is going to have to be used to help those people to see what the real world is. And
Brainwash people. That's a tall
yeah,
order. And
it is.
I got
After a
the
whole lifetime of being brainwashed, how do you unbrainwash
they're
people?
very infiltrated. That's the problem. Here's a little bit of information. National Teachers Union president is accused of gaslighting parents by saying critical race theory is not taught in schools and prepares to sue states banning the controversial lessons. So all she's saying is, no, it's not that. We're calling it something else. No,
Yeah,
that's it.
that
And
is right.
her remarks came just a few days after the National Educators Association passed the resolution supporting critical race theory.
Well, what they're trying to say is we're not teaching critical race theory, we're teaching American history.
Mhm.
And so that's how they're trying to overcome this whole thing. But
It's
they're teaching,
childish manipulation.
yeah. So let me just be clear. They're teaching critical race theory.
Yeah,
That's what they're doing.
worse,
Yeah, it's
equally as
bad,
bad.
and
This
they're down, and they're also teaching the 1619 movement, which
mhm,
states that America was founded on slavery,
mhm.
and they are they voted this week to not only to go after critical race theory and they're all over the country, but also to research and study their opposition and come up with tools to overcome people that oppose critical race theory. And when I and these, the Democratic Socialists of America, DSA, that's where Ocasio Cortez and Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Presley, they all come from that DSA.
Mhm,
They're all involved in these teacher unions,
mhm.
and they're talking about how they are really going after corporate society that's been oppressing the working class, and that their agenda really is to use the students in order to amass change, social justice change, and really punish capitalist corporations. Well, what does that have to do with? That's their number one priority. Shouldn't the number one priority be to teach the kids math and reading and
No
and
kidding.
science and
Yeah,
history and real history?
yeah.
But they've clouded their agenda, that main goal, that primary goal, with a whole different goal. And when you start to take a look at how the unions have this stranglehold on our educational system, and how really the unions have turned what's supposed to be local education into national education, and how they can say critical race theory, we're going to teach it, and how that can happen instantly across the country. I think that's too much power that they have over our children.
Yeah, well, in military, listen to this headline. U.S. Air Force Academy professor backs critical race theory for all troops, saying the Constitution was created inequality. George Washington was racist, and U.S. domestic and foreign policy is shaped by racism.
Wow. Did you know? Yeah, and George Washington had slaves. Everybody did back
Yeah,
then. I mean, the world did.
I
But
would say it was racist back then. We know that.
but
You
the
know?
fact is that these are the people that wrote that all men are created equal, men and women. That's
Mm,
what that means. They're the people that actually put in the seeds that destroyed slavery. They're the people that actually documented and went to war over it. They're the people that actually later on chose to fight a war to eliminate slavery, of which 600,000 of their own people were killed in order to eliminate that. And they were the people that led the rest of the world into eliminating slavery. They don't get credit for that anymore.
well, it's
But that's what
amazing.
changed the entire world.
It's amazing to me that people like this professor and people like the teachers and the unions and that they are using these select experiences in 100 200 years ago to create policies for today. That's ridiculous. Why don't
Isn't it?
why don't we go back to the Roman Empire, study that, and then start changing our laws based on what happened in the Roman Empire?
Well,
The fact of the matter is, it was a racist society back then. Clearly, we enslaved people, and people are still enslaved today all over the world.
they
And we
are.
should be talking about things like the sex slave industry right in our own country, which is
Mm. This is
huge.
huge. Like a
Yeah.
million people are being
Instead
taken
of
every
this
year.
ridiculous stuff.
Yes. Yeah, you're
And
right. You're right, Barry.
we
You're
should
right
sign
once
off,
again.
buddy.
Yeah, yeah, it's
You
time to
know,
go. We had a lot of
as soon
great
as you
things here.
said, you're right once again, that's a perfect time to
Yeah,
stop.
yeah. Let's end the show now.
Hey, what do you got on tap for the weekend?
A lot of rest and relaxation. It
Good.
should be a nice weekend here. We've got some repair people kind of going. We got a lot of things going on here in
Ah,
the house.
that's what weekends are for.
Yeah, I got a new couch. We're real excited about, but now we have this other couch that they didn't take, and so have some people, some of Hallie's friends coming over that are just really excited to take this. I think it's a really nice couch,
Okay,
but I'm kind
cool.
of bummed. It's in our kitchen right now, which I have a large kitchen, and it's so freaking comfortable in there. I love
Uh,
sitting in the couch, and these people are going to take it on Saturday, and Anne Marie's all excited, and I'm hoping they don't show up.
Too funny. So outside of going to visit our
Your
possible new,
dogs.
can you believe this?
Oh
Can you
my
believe
gosh,
it?
this could be it. This could be it. I'm excited for you, man.
I ain't gonna go as far as to say probably. When I'm gonna
You're
these
How are you going to
dogs.
say no to that face?
Right,
I
right.
can't. I already if I want the dog right now.
I
I'll
know.
take the other one. Whatever one you don't have, ship the other
I
one.
I would love that. I'd absolutely love that if we live closer. And boy, if we could get those two, that would be so fun. What I'm dreading, absolutely dreading,
The
Lisa.
puppy thing.
Yes, and Lisa's so particular about everything. And now, God bless her that she's been the one following through on this in the first place. But
Mhm.
she's like, how fast can you house train a puppy? And I'm looking it up, and boy, it's going to
Not
be
that fast.
right. There's a
Not
lot.
fast enough is the answer to that
That's
one.
the
I already know
fact.
that.
It's going
Yeah.
to cause some tension.
Well, and
And
then they like to chew things, and
yeah,
like Anne Marie's the same way. Like if that dog were to chew that new couch, I'm telling you,
yeah,
I might not be able to live in the house. It's
I
just
know. I
it's a
know.
that's not a good thing, and
There's
that's
always
the
some
thing with
casualties.
puppies. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
puppies are that's. And there's the problem is that they're so darn cute.
Oh, there's so they. I know that as kind of like trepidatious as I feel about this, if this happens, I won't regret it. I won't regret it. I'll be back
No.
to going on walks every day and trimming down some of this extra weight I put on.
That's such a big thing. I remember when I first
It's
got Stella,
huge.
I think I lost 20 pounds in like 2 months right away.
Yeah,
Um,
I said before, it's like I didn't realize it at first. Now we've been without a dog for over 3 years.
yeah,
Well,
it's been two for me. Yeah.
that's at least, this is conservatively speaking, at least 7 hours a week of exercise I'm not getting from
I
those
get you.
walks.
Same here. I mean, it was every, and
That's
we
a
don't have a
lot.
yard here, so every time Seat's got to go outside. I got to go for a walk. So
Well, if I were
even
you today, if you were to get a dog, I'd get like a German Shepherd or something. Be walking
yeah,
around your neighborhood. Yeah.
Anne Marie really likes German
I
Shepherds
love them.
too.
I
We
love
have
them.
one that lives right down here. Her name is Asia, and she is beautiful.
Yeah.
Our neighbor got her as a
So smart.
puppy,
Yeah.
and
Sweet.
super smart. And
Yeah.
this one, he had another one that was so well trained. This one's a little defiant, and
Ah,
it loves all the neighbors. So this
yeah.
guy's constantly, Asia, come here, and he comes over and licks me. You should go back over there. He just wags his tail.
But he will never have a problem. That's like when I had Bowser. I didn't
Yeah.
even realize at the time I was never going to have a problem. Like everybody knew where he lived, Bowser. And
Yes.
when I told you before, when I'd walk down the sidewalk, people would look like ants way down there on the horizon. They'd move to the other side of the street.
I remember you told me that they'd dive in the bushes. That just cracked me up.
and he was so nice. He would have never bit anybody without a good reason. He
I
never
have to
did bite anybody. And
Stella was, she was 50 some pounds, and she was all black, and it's the nicest dog ever, but nobody knew that.
yeah,
And I had the same thing. And I loved that. That was
yeah,
really
yeah.
cool.
It is really cool. And
Yeah.
because I went from that to little Laney, the little
Oh,
beagle,
yeah.
and dogs always wanted to gang up on her. And
Uh,
and owners are terrible.
they are terrible.
Yeah, it'd
They
be
don't
like they have
control their dog.
two
Yeah.
big dogs running at her. This happened like a lot. And oh, my dogs just want to say hi because they see this sweet looking little beagle. She's
I know.
terrified
I
and then goes
know.
to bite them because she's scared. And then she gets her butt kicked. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh my God, the things I've said.
It is terrible. And like, it's like, they don't even, are you
And then
using?
they look at me like I'm the ass here. They
Yeah,
do.
I know. I felt bad for Anne Marie because she really had a hard time with that. Because for some reason, Stella attracted a lot of dogs. Man, they
Yeah.
all wanted to come over to her, big dogs, and we had a
Mm.
lot of experiences. Man, I mean, it was pretty exciting for me, but for Anne Marie, she's got a healthy fear of dogs, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and she had a terrifying experience where
That'll do it.
Stella got attacked and she had to have Stella had stitches, and
Wow.
Anne Marie was traumatized by it. It was traumatizing because,
Sure.
again, it
Sure.
was somebody else's dog that they didn't have on a leash. It was a pit bull. It
Oh.
ended up clamping down on my dog's
Oh.
paw, and anyway, on her leg. And
Oh God.
it was and Anne Marie was
Mm.
injured as well. And you know,
People.
it comes down to people. You put your dog on a leash, first of all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's important. And don't let your dog just tear off after other dogs like that. I never let my
Yeah.
dog do that.
Right. No, I see that all the time. And I said to Lisa, if we do this, our entire backyard is fenced off, but not the driveway. And the houses are close enough. We could put a gate on there, like an
Yeah.
automated gate, but we got
Yeah.
to do that. I mean, for the dog's protection, you know?
You're right. And out here, Barry, we have such a coyote problem, and
Yeah.
people have like little chihuahuas out here. These coyotes are stealing chihuahuas left and right out here.
Oh, God.
It's
That's
pretty horrible.
awful.
And our coyotes are like big German shepherds,
I
man.
know.
They're
I know.
they're huge out here.
Yeah. And they're cunning. They're very
Yeah,
cunning
they
too.
are. They
I
are.
remember somebody telling me, I don't remember who, but their dog was being baited by a coyote pretending like he wanted to play and try to
Yes.
lure him deep into the backyard where his buddies would be waiting.
They're very strategic. And
Mm.
I was talking to one guy. I was on a walk with Stella, and he was warning me to be careful. And he told a story about how he had his dog in the back and heard some noise back there, and his house is all fenced in the back. And when he turned on the lights, he could see his dog out there, but just beyond the fence, it was all black, and he could just see all these glowing eyes out
Oh
there.
my God.
How horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awful. Hey, I hate to say it,
Let's
having
do it.
fun here, but we got to go.
I know. Let's
All right.
wrap.
Love you, brother.
Love
Talk
you
soon.
too. Have a
All
good
right.
one. Bye.